Now, the question I want to ask you out there, is there a place for forums and blogs in the NBL? Me personally, I don't think so. At the Hunter Pirates, they had some trouble with their forum on their own website. They went around and asked a few people, including myself, and they basically said to me, do you want to get rid of them, or should they be there? You know, I said no. And should they get rid of them? My answer was yes. Y-E-S. Yes, because anyone can post anything, you know, like, for example, NBL stats. I said it in the last episode of TO, good site, come up with some good stuff. But they can post anything, you know, and I'm not going to go on about Grant Kruger's number 11 and all this type of stuff, you know, which still hasn't changed, by the way. But meaning from that example is that anyone can post anything on the net, you know, and say, you know, someone's black when they're white, or someone's blue when they're pink, or, you know, or someone's number 50 when they were number 1. They could post anything. Say they were 6'7" when they were 5'10", you know, something like that. You can put anything. You know, there's no, like, no one's, you know, mediating it, no one's, you know, policing it, saying, you know, this is right, this is wrong, and the NBL aren't going to do that. That's what NBL.com's for, because they've got their own website with their own deal, and their own stats and own whatever there. And NBL.com is a pretty good site. I check it out all the time, just about every day, and get all my information from there, because that's the word of mouth, that's the horse's mouth, that's where the truth comes from. And that's what I reckon on the forums and NBL. Now, on a serious note, this stuff about getting rid of the foundation teams like Wollongong, you know, like the Canberra Cannons, Brisbane Bullets, Newcastle Falcons, even down to the Hobart Devils and the Gold Coast Rollers, you know, we've got to have those teams in the league. Now, I don't know what's going on next year with the 8 or 9 team competition, but that's no good. We should allow, and if anyone from the NBL is listening, you know, take this into consideration, because I think a lot of people out there are really behind me on this one. You got to allow some more teams in there. Those teams I just mentioned, the Bullets, the Cannons, the Hawks, whoever, you know, even the Taipans to the Sydney Spirit to the Sydney Kings, they've got to be in there. So what we've got to do is, or what you guys have got to do is, you've got to organise it so that, you know, you'd allow those teams to be in there. You know, keep the teams you've got now on the salary cap and all that type of stuff they're on now, and maybe get the teams I just mentioned in there on a lower salary cap. You know, they might get flogged the first few years, or, you know, maybe allow them to have 3 imports instead of 2. You know, they might get, you know, some people to the games, you know, because you've got to have foundation clubs there. And what I mean by foundation clubs is the clubs with their own stadium, so that they don't have to pay to host games, you know, like paying 20 grand before you even get one person through the door, you know, like, come on. You know, if for example, the Newcastle Falcons were in the league, they'd have the Newcastle Basketball Stadium, and they'd be able to pay, you know, rent the basketball stadium off Newcastle Basketball, and a lot of people would go to the game, you know, 3,500 or 2,500 seat stadium, you know, 10, 15 bucks a pop, money straight in the pocket. You know, there's no 20 grand out payment there to hire the stadium with, you know, hideous drink prices and food prices, and the stadium would make money off the canteen and all that type of stuff. So that's where you got to be with the NBL next year, or maybe the year after, with more teams. And those 6 or 7 teams that are out, even the Wollongong Hawks, got to be in it, back in it soon. They've got to be back in the league, and that's a must. Because you're going to lose the whole supporters base, and all the fans are going to not want to go to the games because the ticket prices are too dear, food's too much, you know, $4.50 for a Coke and $5 for a pie, you know, 10 bucks. I can go and buy a whole heap of stuff at the supermarket for 10 bucks to last me a week, you know, to eat. So, you know, I don't know whether you adjust the salary cap for them teams, or so they survive, or have 3 imports, or what, but they've got to be in there, and that's the dead set honest truth. People want them teams in there, and people will go to the games. And also coverage, not just Fox, they do a good job at the moment, but we need coverage on free-to-air TV. You know, NBN, Channel 9, even Channel 7, whoever. Some of the local stations got to get behind the basketball. It's got to happen. Now, another thing, with forums. Now people, this really amazes me, and I don't know why and how people do this. If I went to a basketball game, I'd want to be watching the game. You know, I'd want to be taking in the atmosphere, listening to the courtside announcer, listening to the music he's playing, not criticising him, but enjoying it, taking it all in, and all that stuff. Now, you know, that's called being normal and having a life and doing your thing. And, you know, people that post on internet forums during games, you know, like I think it was Skin Dog the other day in the Hawks' last game. Who gives a shit who's singing the national anthem? Who gives a shit what the score is at, you know, with 10 minutes to go in the first quarter? We've only played 2 minutes of the game. Who cares? What everyone wants to know is the final score. And if you're not at the game, you listen to it on the radio. And if you don't listen to it on the radio, you look up the score on the net and you find out who scored what at when. You know, you don't post on forums or blogs during a game. That is nerdy and geeky. Take it from me. Now, I've got a very special treat for you there at Oz Hoops, aka Gay Hoops, A Long Night at Keilor. If you have a little look there, read a little bit closer, it might say a bit of the old Clinton Gardner in there sometime, somewhere, towards the end. There's a few big names there, Dwayne Nelson and a few other guys. Oh, there he is, the old Clint Dogg, Clinton Gardner. There he is. Newcastle Hunters, 1990, I think, 1991. And that was the quadruple overtime Southeastern Basketball League game. This is the snippet from Basketball Week. That's the report there, James Weston. And that was in 1990. Now if I just flip over here, there's a thing in the Newcastle Herald as well. And the picture there of a young Clint Dogg, there he is, got the flat top going there, but a bit of hairstyles there, looks a bit like Derek Rucker in his younger days, of course, with the bald head these days. And that's the report in the Newcastle Herald. Clinton Gardner, the king of Newcastle Hunters basketball, for a week. That was the quadruple overtime game. I don't know if that record still stands, but there was myself, Ewan and Todd Hadaway left on the court, 3-on-3, and I think it was Keilor. They had Dwayne Nelson and two other guys left on the court, and it went into 4 overtimes, and yes, we lost. I have the actual score sheet of that game for the old, I think it's a copy. There's Clint Dogg, number 32 there, Tom Harvey, the import, Michael Gallagher, Ewan Jones, there he is, Jace Atkins, Rowan George, Todd Hadaway, Marty McLean, David Willis. Actually, I've got a bit of a story about Marty McLean and David Willis. And Richard Ramey, oh my god, he was the worst ever import to come to Australia off the court, but look at his stats. And myself and Tom Harvey roomed with him, and we've got a few stories, but that'll have to be another episode of the TO. But here, with Dave Willis now, NBLstats.com, have a look at Dave Willis, number 21 there, and Martin McLean. I think it was 1991. In the very last game, they actually suited up for the Falcons, and I think it was Jace Atkins as well. I could have sworn it was Gavin Vickers, but I seen him the other night and he said it wasn't him. So, Dave Willis, Marty McLean, and I'm going with Jace Atkins for the other player suiting up at the end of the 1990 regular season. Now, that pretty much wraps up the second episode of the TO here with DJ Clint Dogg. You all need to check out the website, www.clintdogg.com, clintdogg.tk, cstylerecords.tk. It's all there. Go out and download all the songs. The film clips are there. Check these episodes out, number 1, and we got some things on there as well. Poster show with some bomb-ass posters from the old school. And check out episode number 3 of The Turnover coming up real soon. It'll be out next week. And the Melbourne Tigers will win the NBL this year. 36ers will win next week in New Zealand. Perth will win in Perth on Wednesday night. And the South Dragons will beat them later. And the Melbourne Tigers will beat the 36ers, I think they play. If 36ers win, that is. The Melbourne Tigers will win out of the South Melbourne Dragons and the Melbourne Tigers game. For the grand final, you've heard it here on the TO first. DJ Clint Dogg in the house. Don't forget to shout out to DJ Rod. I forgot about you, man. And Skin Dog the Hawk. Congratulations, man. Enjoy the year next year. See yous.
Throw up, we don't give a fuck. You get got, we'll be up at Charlestown for the throw up. We don't give a fuck. You get got, we'll be up at Charlestown for the throw up. We don't give a fuck. You get got, we'll be up at Charlestown.